Okay, welcome to Chart Review with your host B Gum. We're going to get right into it today. We're going to be reviewing LUV, Southwest Airlines Company. I posted a 5-minute chart on these guys on June 20th, as we can see right here. And I said that I really like this chart, and I said it was screaming a buy. Again, this is on the 5-minute. Let's go ahead and take a look at why I said it was a buy. As we know, smart money steps in at the last 30 minutes of the day. If you didn't know, now you know. Smart money always steps in the last 30 minutes of the day. Normally, the last 5 minutes of the day is really when you're going to see their hand at play. So there are 4 buy signals here. Let's see if you can, see what I'm seeing. Notice we're using the stochastics oscillator as well as the CCI. Go ahead and note the settings that we have there. This is not the default settings. This is the default settings. So I'm going to go ahead. It's going to be a shorter video. We'll break this down real quick. I am going to go ahead and just show you the performance of this trade real quick. Bam. Look at that. Okay. Now you're asking yourself, Brandon, how can I trade this? How can I see what you're seeing here? Well, quite simply, I like to use stochastics and the CCI on the 5-minute chart. On the 1-day chart, you'll see that I like to use the MACD and RSI. So how do we use these? Well, I released a video on how to trade AMD a few days ago, and I'm going to go ahead and provide that link in the description. I advise everybody to go ahead and watch that. AMD moved 7-8% that day, and there was tons of buy signals using these 2 indicators. So we're going to use them here. And how do I do that? Well, I see there's a support line here. Would you agree? We got 3 points of contact, thus we can draw a trend line or a support line. That's what we've done here. We have high volume. Anytime we're buying anything, buying a breakout or buying on a buy signal, right? We like to see high volume to confirm. That's trading 101, right? So you can say, okay, it touches support line. I'm gonna buy it. That's a buy signal if it touches the support line and starts going up. A conservative trader could also say, okay, at this dotted line I drew here, once it crosses this, if we're still going up, I'll buy. An even more conservative trader would say, no. Once we cross this upper resistance line, that's when I'll buy. I don't want to buy in a wedge, right? So there's 3 buy entry points on price action alone here. Volume is confirming a buy. How do we use the stochastics and the CCI to confirm a buy? Well, I drew a trend line here, as you can see. And again, reference my AMD video to see how to trade this. I'm not going to go into depth here for the few of you who actually do watch my videos on a regular basis. I'll spare you the time. We're crossing above the 100 here. We're also crossing above a trend line. So that is 2 buy signals on the CCI alone. We got a trend line and we're crossing above the 100 line. That is a buy signal. Notice the 2 there. On stochastics, we're in the oversold territory right now. If we begin to cross above the 20 line here, or the oversold line, it's a buy signal. Now you're looking, we crossed above it right here and it came right back down. We came down pretty far down here, so a cross above the 20 is more significant. This barely even crossed below 20, if you get what I'm saying there. Nonetheless, if we cross above here and if we cross above here, that's a buy. Those are 2 buy signals: high volume buy signal, and then you can generate a buy signal for price action. So that's how we could trade this on the 5-minute chart. I hope everybody followed that. If not, please post a comment, especially with the time in the video here. If it's a minute 20 in, let me know and ask your question that way. I'll get back to you. And again, this was a great trade to get in. So a buddy of mine asked me, Brandon, I bought LUV because your chart, it looked great and I really liked it, but now I'm getting kind of worried. They've had a down day or 2 in a row. What do I do? So we're going to go ahead and look at the daily here. So this is the daily. I've already drawn all the lines for everybody. I am going to try to keep this video short, like I said, because I know everybody has a small attention span. First thing I drew was a trend line. This trend line right here. How do we draw trend lines? Trend line 101, you need 3 points of contact. You can either draw trend lines at using the real bodies to draw it, or you can use it using all data for a candlestick. So I originally drew this trend line. I know a lot of people struggle with trend lines, so I'll show you how I did this. I originally drew this trend line like this. And I like to keep my focus on a small period in time. I don't like to try to bias myself by, you know, saying I'm going to look over here and try to match up points over here. I'm going to try to match up points in this area. As you can see, we kind of test that line right here, right here, right here. And, you know, we even bounce off it right here. Remember that opening and closing prices are the most significant. Intraday prices, like we're seeing here and here, are less significant. Now, that's not to say that you should ignore intraday prices, but this is how I originally did the trend line. And then I said, you know, I'm gonna switch this up, and I'm actually gonna draw it from the real body. So I drew it from the open of the day, and if we do that, we get a little bit better, you know, a little bit cleaner trend line, right? We're hugging the line here, 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 here. So we're getting more, we're testing that line more. And then I said, okay, how far does this line go? So then I drew from here, and I'm keeping my vision on this bar right here. That way I'm not biasing myself. And I'm lining it up with the corner of this, and this is what it looks like. And, you know, I'm looking at this and I say, yeah, that's a pretty valid trend line. You know, all of these prices right here kind of hugging it, and then we're moving up. It doesn't have to be on the very first bar right here, right? So that's how I drew the trend line. Let's get into it. So next line I drew was this, and then this. Why did I draw this? Let's say that we're, you know, in this period of time, and you're like, man, I want to make an entry, but I want to be the last person into this thing, right? What if this is a double top? I like the company, but what if this is a double top? I don't want to be the last trader. Well, I would advise to you, draw a trend line at the last high that it had. So the last high it had was, you know, was right here. We have more than 3 points of contact. You don't even need that. You can just say, what's the last high? You can say, okay, the last high is here. If it crosses above it, I'm going to buy. That's a simple trading strategy, and it gets you in, and you get an okay return right there. That's not too shabby. And again, even here, you can say the same thing. You know, you're like, man, I want to get into this thing, but I want to be the last trader. Well, once it crosses this orange line, go ahead and get in. And, you know, right now it's working for you. You know, you're not below that orange line. It's working for you. You're not making money, but it's working for you. Another thing that we could say is, okay, I want to get in. I missed the entry point in here, and now we're above. Okay, what am I going to do? Well, what if it tests this trend line? Because every time it's tested this trend line, we've moved higher, right? We're testing it all in here and we move higher. So I would say, okay, well, if it touches this trend line and we move higher, go ahead and buy. So you can even say a buy signal is right there, right? And that would have worked out nicely for you as well. And then, so, okay, now let's get into our indicators a little bit. I have RSI and MACD up on the screen, and a quick note for everybody. We are not using the default settings for the relative strength index. Default's 14 periods. I went ahead and I changed it to 21. Why? Just so that it looked cleaner. MACD is also not default. It's 593. Just note that. I either use the default or 593 for the MACD. So I'll go ahead and break this down real quick. As we can see here, first line I drew was actually with the RSI. I normally start with the RSI. This is a pretty simple analysis of the RSI for me. Normally I do it much more in depth, but nonetheless, this is pretty powerful. So I went ahead and drew this trend line first. Remember, we need 3 points of contact. We got bam, 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 3 points. Right here, we do break that trend line, but why do I still say this trend line is significant? Why? Well, if we zoom in right here, we can see that on this bar right here, you know, we came down and we tested it, and then we moved higher, making this line even more significant. Now, we moved lower. You can't deny it, but we came right back up. What could you say about this? You could say it's oscillating around that trend line, or that we're seeing uniform action below and back above, making this trend line, you know, more significant. You know, I don't really like to see trend line breaks, but I will say it happens, and you gotta use your indicators how you know how to use them. And so that's why I drew this. And I know a lot of people are going to be confused by this trend line that we have going here because of this break, but just listen to me, just follow me. So normally when we have a trend line break, which would be right here, we just broke through that trend line, I would normally draw a green ray like we see here, right? I chose not to, just because we moved back above it. Instead, I chose to say, okay, I'm going to draw a ray, ray being horizontal, but I'm going to give this ray a range, right? How do I do that? Well, I drew a blue box, as you can see here, and I said, okay, I'm going to draw this range so that it starts at the point it broke, and the bottom of the range is at the bottom of, that pullback. Do you see what I'm saying here? So the bottom of the range is here, and the top of the range is where it broke at. So if we apply that, it comes to show that it's actually a pretty valid range to trade the RSI in. If we move below this range, sell. If we move above the range, buy. So you would have bought right in here, and you would have got this move in, and you would have never sold in here at all because it never moved back below this blue line. I hope everybody sees what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this blue line now. Okay, then I started looking at this some more, and I said, man, right in through here, I was like, man, this point matches up with this. I was like, man, we got more than 3 points here. I was like, we're going to go ahead and draw this trend line. So I did. And quick note for everybody, if you're ever drawing trend lines like this, it doesn't apply to this particular chart, but you can draw a trend line and then secondary trend lines as well. I'll draw a really poor secondary trend line right here. You could say that this is a trend line, which it's not, but that this would be a secondary trend line, right? It's kind of what we're doing down here, and we're connecting 3 points of contact. And as soon as my philosophy is going to be here, as soon as we break below this trend line, I'm going to draw a ray. That's what I did here. This green ray that we see, and what does this green ray show us? Well, look, we tested this green ray right here, and we got support. We tested it right here, and we got support. We tested it right here, and we got support. And look, that's so interesting. Where it's testing it right here and here, look, it matches up with that and this. Isn't that interesting? It matches up with that testing of the trend line. Even here, look. I mean, we test the trend line even here, and we look on the RSI. We test it right there. Now, you can't tell me that that's, a coincidence. It's not. Like, there's symmetry in the universe, and that's what we're seeing here. I'm going to try to wrap up this video here pretty quick. I'm going to draw one more RSI trend line. This one's a little bit more biased, but I'm going to draw it anyways. We have several points of contact in through here. So what am I going to do? I like to not try to bias myself. When I'm drawing trend lines, it's very easy to bias yourself looking for that long entry, right? You want to see it going. You want to see a buy signal saying to buy. I really try to prevent myself from biasing myself. How do I do that? I focus on the points of contact that I'm most concerned about, right? And see if it matches up. We clearly have an angle going on with these points of contact right here. So I'm going to focus my vision on this. I'm going to draw a point here, and I'm going to extend it out this way while looking at these points right here. And if I match these all up, as you can see, it seems to be a significant trend line. And why do I say that? Well, we test it here and we get rejected, right? We get rejected and we get a little bit of downside. Do you agree? Making this trend line even more significant. Now we have more points of contact. We break above it right here, which coincides with this break right here. Imagine that, right? We're breaking above this trend line that I just drew, which also breaks above this trend line, right? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Now, we go ahead and we test it right here, correct? Making this trend line, this RSI trend line even more significant. We break down below it. We test that green line. We break above it. And we test it again. And we're moving higher. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say RSI trend lines, draw them. They do hold significance. You always need to back test the RSI. You can't just go in here and start drawing trend lines and say, yep, this is so true. Make sure that what the RSI thesis that you have, the thesis that the RSI is telling you, make sure it is true. If I drew all this and none of it matched up, I wouldn't even try to use RSI on this chart. I would probably just move on to a new equity, right? If the RSI tells me one thing and the chart's saying a different thing, then I'm like, okay, this is broken. I'm not even going to try to trade this. But in wrapping up in the last 2 minutes of this video, that's the review on RSI. I hope everybody understood that. I know I was coming at you pretty hot there. I would advise you to re-listen to what I just said. If you have questions, please leave comments and I will answer them, I promise you. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and look at the MACD. What's the MACD telling us? If you remember in my past videos, I said crosses at the 0 line right here. Crosses at the 0 line are much more significant. Why do I say that? Well, we cross below 0 right here, gets us out all the way up here, right? We cross above 0 here, and so we kind of hover around that area, but nonetheless, if you were to buy into that, you get into a nice move right there. That just shows you that RSI crosses at 0 are more significant. Same thing here. That's a nice little move. Same thing here. Nice little move. And why'd I even draw this box right here? Well, there's this thing called a uniform action. I think I might have mentioned it earlier. The idea of symmetry, right? If you were to divide this in half, this side and this side, they're symmetrical. Not so much like this portion, but in through here, right? It's symmetrical. That's uniform action. Uniform action below and back above. That's a very powerful entry signal. And by powerful, I mean a very significant one. It doesn't mean it's going to go, to $1 million, but it does mean that it is a good entry signal and that it's not noisy. This is a little bit noisy, across above 0 here. When we see symmetry, it's a very concrete entry signal, showing a very concrete action in the stock. So that's how we're using MACD here. So in summary, in the last minute, I would say I am still long this stock. I do not hold a position in this, but I would still bias myself. Notice my words there. I would still bias myself long. Why do I say that? Because MACD is not telling me to sell. RSI is not telling me to sell. I'm still above this RSI trend line. I'm still above my blue box. I'm still above the bottom of my blue box. I'm still above this this green horizontal ray here. And there's no high volume here, selling off or anything. There's no reason to sell right now. We're even above this orange line right here from the last previous high. So there's no reason to sell. Now I will say, if we look at this price action right here, we see a little bit of exhaustion of buyers. Exhaustion of buyers. Why do I say that? Well, we're going higher. We start to see, especially on these two candles right here is where we're really seeing the exhaustion. If it is truly exhaustion, we will see, we opened here and we tried to move higher and we made a brand new high. Do you see that? We made a brand new high on this day, but we finished the day down. Well, that's not good. Same thing here. We moved higher and we closed the day lower. That's showing sellers are present. That's showing a little bit of slowing and buying pressure. And everything needs to consolidate. Without consolidation, any gains are not healthy. So that's the last point I'm going to leave you off with. I still am long this stock. There's no reason to sell at the moment. Look for the MACD and RSI to give you confirming sell signals. And remember, the last time they gave you really good sell signals was right here. And the MACD got you out in this area. Even the RSI got you out in that area, right? The RSI even broke down right here. And, we're getting out near the top of that high. So don't get eager. Have a system. Wait for sell signals. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something out of it. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, reach out to me and I will get back to you. Thank you, everyone.